and now one of the political world's most well-known oracles. The American pollster and communications strategist Frank Luntz is best known for his analysis of American politics. He hit the headlines earlier this year when he declared that he'd had enough of Donald Trump and the Republican Party. But he's always retained a keen interest in UK politics too, ever since advising Boris Johnson on his campaign for the presidency of the Oxford Union 35 years ago. Now, Luntz has undertaken a survey of this nation for the Centre for Policy Studies, focusing on language and attitudes towards political and economic issues. And he's here to discuss those findings ahead of the survey's full publication later this week. Frank Luntz, what were you actually trying to understand with this survey?
Well, in 3 words, populism, wokeism, and extremism. I've seen the damage that's done to American politics, to the American economy, and I don't want to see that happen here in the UK. I spent 3 years at Oxford in the 1980s. I was recently a lecturer for a week at the Blavatnik Institute at Oxford, and I loved it. I really do love it here. And I appreciate the civility and the decency that people exhibit. I appreciate the respect that they have for different points of view. And it's, in essence, a warning, a wake-up call, and a roadmap for how to avoid the mess that we've got in America right now. And I say this on the 4th of July, and it really disappoints me because I still love my country. And I'm still patriotic. I still get emotional when I see the flag. But I get emotional when I see your flag as well, the Union Jack. And I want to see understanding. I want to see respect. I want to see civility across the political spectrum. So that's why I'm here, and that's the purpose of the CPS study.
Well, we were talking earlier on in the programme about that issue, and we just had a by-election, I think you'll know here, where I have to say it wasn't particularly characterised by civility. But let's have a look at the whole picture. Let's start with what people think about political leaders in Britain. You asked a question about how political leaders make people feel.
And look at that. That's the #1 answer. We gave them a list of 18 attributes, and disappointed came in first, ignored, irrelevant. The first 8 words, we gave them 10 negative words and 8 positive words. And the first 8 that they chose were all negative. That this is a wake-up call for the Conservatives, for Lib Dems, for Labour, for the Greens. It's a wake-up call for everyone in politics that the public isn't hearing you. That you may be speaking, you may be doing events, you may be sending them emails and texts, you may have a website. But to them, it's all noise. You need to cut through the clutter, and I'm going to give you 3 recommendations for it. #1 is that they want to know what you are for, not what you are against. So don't define yourself by the other party, define yourself by yours. #2, the highest priority right now is honesty and trust. So be candid with them. Say what you mean and mean what you say. And #3, safety, security, strong, successful, that the #1 focus is still the economy, but #2, right underneath it and right behind it is crime. So give people a better quality of life and they'll give you a re-election.
That's that's quite a big steer for us as a programme. It sounds like we'd do better in ratings if we had fewer politicians on. Bit of a problem for us. But the point you make there about division, which we discussed earlier on, in the United States we see a lot of division on the issues of race and so on. Is that reflected here? What's the greatest divide that we're seeing in Britain today?
The #1 divide is by wealth. It's by income inequality. We've got the same challenge in the States. Even the Conservatives who talk about economic freedom, even they prioritize rich versus poor as the #2 behind British-born versus immigrant. But overall, the rich versus poor divide, and by the way, this is a warning for the Conservatives, that they need to understand and reflect the public's feeling that nobody succeeds if everyone doesn't succeed, that this idea of every and all is essential. Every person needs a shot at success. Every person in every community needs a shot at a ladder up, the opportunity to succeed. It's not the definition of what happens at the end that matters. They're not asking for equal outcomes, which is a labor challenge. But they are asking for equal opportunity. They're asking for a healthy economy, an open economy, and they're asking that they be respected as hardworking taxpayers.
That's interesting because, that's clear, and that's a traditional divide in this country. But we hear a lot of noise about what people these days call culture wars, the issues of race, of religion and religious fundamentalism and all of that, and this relatively new word, which other surveys recently here suggest nobody really, or most people don't really know what it means, wokeism. What are we following America in our obsession with that, or is it something that's not going to matter to us?
I think it's going to matter deeply. It doesn't matter right now, but it's coming. There are many ways that America follows the UK. Your vote for Brexit was an indication of a hidden vote that Donald Trump took advantage of. Your vote for Margaret Thatcher back 40 years ago was the leading indicator for Ronald Reagan. And there are times when America is ahead of you, such as Bill Clinton to Tony Blair. And right now, wokeism, cancel culture, the language is mean and harsh, and the outcome will be negative. As you've got right up there, the conservatives are deeply afraid of wokeism. Labor's more afraid of racism. Even though 1/3 of your country does not know what wokeism is, it's still the number 3 concern, the number 3 ism. And here's why. They know that it's divisive. They know that it's polarizing. They know that it's not being put forward to have a better, more unified country, which is what the CPS study is all about. It's about unity. Wokeism is about division, about polarization, about punishing people for success and not respecting hard work and meritocracy. And by the way, I don't know if you've got this data, but to my surprise, people put equality over meritocracy. Now, I need to give a proviso. Inequality is unacceptable in 2021 UK and 2021 US. Inequality, a discrimination, that we expect everyone everywhere to have that opportunity. And we want that opportunity to be available to everyone based on hard work, creativity, and outcome. So I would think that we would want to cherish meritocracy, but right now, equality is a higher priority to the British population.
One of the one of the outputs of the, if you like, this concern about these issues of wokeism and so on is what's called cancel culture, i.e. people's essentially having the right to free expression deprived. What do we think about that?
We think that freedom of speech is the number one freedom. We believe that freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So nobody wants to cancel rallies. Nobody wants to limit protests. It's a very, very small percentage of the UK population, but they want to ensure that those who work hard, play by the rules, pay their taxes, that they're respected, not punished. And you'll see a big difference between conservative voters and Labour voters on this issue of cancel culture. And in fact, on every issue, we have a divide in America, personally, in the way we treat each other. That divide is not as great in the UK. However, the UK political policy divisions, priority divisions, are even wider than the US. And I will tell you from personal experience here on the 4th of July, on a day that I should be celebrating by going to fireworks and having burgers and coleslaw and just celebrating independence, it's very hard to celebrate because we are so mean and so ugly and so rotten to each other. The language that we would not accept our kids using is language that politicians use against each other every day in America. And I don't want to see that in the UK. We've been conducting focus groups with CPS.
Yeah.
And the response is people are respectful and decent and disagree with each other in a positive way. That's the kind of politics you want to practice. That's the kind of politics we should be doing in America. And I want to ensure that that kind of politics stays in the UK forever.
One shouldn't say it on Independence Day, but maybe the Brits have something to teach the Americans about being nice and civil. But by the way, one of the results which I thought was very interesting is that we don't just have a low opinion of politicians, but also to some extent of of business leaders. And I think we've got a result about what we think business leaders ought to be doing.
Yes, and the one thing that's a shock to me is that climate in this country is now universal. that this is the only country where arguably more people on the right are environmentalists and are focused on issues of climate than people on the left. That's not happening anywhere else in the globe, but it is happening here. This is the one area where universally the British public says, let's be environmentally friendly. Let's have a cleaner, safer, healthier globe. Let's put our environmental community first. It's very impressive to see.
I thought it was really interesting that actually Conservatives appear to be marginally more concerned about business leaders doing something on climate change than Labour supporters.
Yeah, but you know where we got universal agreement? The business community should stay out of politics. They want business to focus on business, focus on employees, focus on their employees, not workers. And by the way, they're no longer businesses, they're employers, because the British public is so much more supportive of those who create jobs than they are of that company itself. And they want customers, they want to focus on employees and not on shareholders. And what's interesting is investor is so much more supported than a shareholder, because a shareholder is just about making money, and investors making a personal commitment in that business, in that employer, and in the future. So we have a whole business lexicon that'll be helpful to those involved in the British economy. And believe me, they need to use it, because right now the business community also has some credibility issues.
Frank, you need to spend more time with us. We are basically so nice and lovely and polite on this side of the water. It'd be good to see more of you.
I got to tell you, frankly, I don't want to go home. I want to stay here, but I need to leave in a few weeks. But thank you. Once again, even your interview on Sky is more civil than what we have in the US, so I appreciate it.